It's another powerful transmission against tyranny tonight. It's going to be a marathon transmission. It is Tuesday, the 15th day of November, 2011. Gerald Celente has had his bank account robbed, along with tens of thousands of other Americans. The banksters are now seizing people's private bank accounts to give it as bailout to the mega banks. And it's hardly even showing up in the news. It's admitted as a minor footnote. In the final segment, Gerald Celente tonight. It takes a lot to get me freaked out, but my God, to see this unfolding is incredible. That's coming up. Tape this interview, get it out to everybody you know. And then in studio, before Gerald joins us, Conrad Buffard, who's one of the top beekeepers in the country, highly respected from right here in Central Texas, is going to be in studio about massive total colony collapse around the world with honeybees, the main populators. The main pollinators, the groups that are allowing plants to repopulate, to engage in reproduction. We're talking about 60 to 80% loss in farm yields if the honeybees die. That's coming up. This is teleprompter-free news. This is the real deal, and it's happening because of your support as PrisonPlanet.tv subscribers. It's your support that allows the millions of people on the web that watch this information able to see it. We appreciate you. But after I cover the top stories, we're going to get to the most important story of the evening, and that's geoengineering chemtrailing. Now, I got a burr under my saddle last week to start doing reports on this. I've been covering it for years, but instead of just producing a big documentary about it, to go ahead and start presenting it in reports here. The problem is, when I tasked Aarron with this over the weekend, he has spent probably 30, 40 hours putting this together. He had hour after hour just of a few seconds of each document. So we're going to show you again more than's been ever shown before by anybody investigating this in one place, but still only a tiny shard of the overall system of the globalists playing God, but a key part of the New World Order coming up. First off, let's get into the news quickly. The Department of Justice is now going before Congress, and they want the regulations changed where when you sign on to any website, YouTube, you name it, if you don't follow their terms of service, it becomes racketeering, organized crime, and you disappear off to prison. This while Congress is publicly involved in insider trading and every crime known to man. So just another way to totally shut down the web as we know it. Incredible information on that front. All part of the attack on the internet and free speech by these criminals who are trying to protect themselves from the public and keep their ill-gotten gains. Continuing, CBS News of Dallas is reporting that the CPS has seized a baby from occupied Dallas site a few weeks ago in a stroller with their parents, and now they want to give the baby to the family or friends, and the CPS says no, the judge says no. We've got to go investigate your family and people. You can't be trusted. We're going to give the child to CPS, who is 17 times more likely to abuse children sexually than any other group. That's the Justice Department's own numbers. We've shown those numbers before. And 5 times more likely to physically knock their teeth out and beat the hell out of them. So, again, these are the absolute pedophile criminals. They make Sandusky look like a choir boy under Sandusky's control. Just amazing information, and judges are now grabbing children in divorce cases. You go and argue in a divorce case when you're fighting. They just go ahead and take your kids. So fathers and mothers, beware. I know the media makes it fun to fight with each other, but you better get your differences straight if you care about the kids. Of course, you're so busy watching television and going out and whoring around, you probably don't even care if some big fat pedophile's gang raping your child, but some of us do care, so you might as well wake up and get involved in reality. Continuing here, NYPD raiders, they're raiders, which means pirates, roused Occupy Wall Street rabble, meaning criminal scum in the Oxford Dictionary. Whether you agree with Occupy Wall Street or not, it's a diverse group. They beat them over the head with billy clubs, you name it. Luke Radowski was down there. It's happening all over the country, showing it's all concerted. When Obama couldn't co-opt this, he said, get those people off the street. The police said, thank you very much. We're ready. And they went in and just absolutely waylaid them. And the media's like, yeah, attack Americans trying to exercise their First Amendment. We love Tiananmen Square. By the way, bakers, take our bank accounts and gang rape us too. And the system says, you bet we're going to hurt you too. And they're like, thank you. And so it's delivered onto you. The curse of America has now begun. The depression is now beginning. You want it? You're going to get it. Let's continue here with the news. Company using aborted fetal cells in flavors. That's right. Now PepsiCo owns a company that is working on fetal cells and I guess aborted fetus parts for a delicious flavoring. And, of course, I know they use it in many of the vaccines, so why not? Humans are just a product now. It's so liberal and trendy, kind of like putting al-Qaeda in control of Libya and murdering all the black people. It's trendy. It's peace. We're liberal. Continuing, counsel accused of staggering invasion of privacy as it plans to record every conversation that takes place in taxi cabs. This is in England. They say if you want your license, you will record everyone in live time. It's piped to us. They're putting up street lamps everywhere listening to us. They're already in place, but now they're announcing it. And Dew found an article in the Wall Street Journal where China's already doing it as well in Beijing. And after all, if the communist Chinese were doing this 3-4 years ago, back in 2008, why not? Once they admit they're spying on us, there's no Bill of Rights, why not go all the way? Why not go absolutely crazy? Let's continue. Hey, the Super Congress, 6 House, 6 Senate, spending bills don't originate in the House anymore. That's the Constitution. Who needs that GD piece of paper, as George W. Bush told newspaper reporters once upon a time. Now the Super Congress will also come in and take over the farms of America with all these new regulations. They control everything. And they admit the bill itself is secret. Why not have a 13-member board with the president as number 13 ruling everything? I mean, after all, who needs a constitution? Torture's sexy. Torture's fun. I watched a bunch of pot-bellied chicken neck ninnies sit there and get mad at Ron Paul when he said torture was illegal. Oh, you don't like rule of law? Don't worry. Your shield of protection, your very atmosphere is going to be sucked out. You're going to get all the blessings you want. All the psychopaths, all the control freaks, all the pedophiles, all the sadists are going to be released on you. You love evil? You think it's cute? You're going to now enjoy being drugged behind it. Enjoy your blessing. Let's continue now here with the news for everybody. I have a lengthy breakdown here that we're going to be going over. That is the InfoWars nightly news for now. The outrageous tyranny pouring in around us. I feel like I'm trapped in an Indiana Jones movie where the sand of the water is pouring into the chamber, and I'm saying, we got to get out of here. It's rising, and the yuppies, the trendies, the know-it-alls, they're too busy slicing their arms or hurting themselves or, wearing diapers as adults, whatever little decadence they're into, to even worry about a total global government program that's hiding in plain view that they call testing. Department of Energy here in the U.S., set up in Europe as well, spraying, mixed in with the jet fuel in some of the cases, mounted to government aircraft, all admitted. Not condensation trails, ice crystals, no. But barium salts, aluminum dioxide, other nuclei mixed in so that it creates an artificial haze. And NASA admits we're more than 20% darker, less sunlight hitting us. You don't just think they put that in the Matrix movies, 10 years ago because they thought that up about a global plan to black out the sun. But the scourge isn't the machines, it's us. This is part of the UN says if you don't play ball with them, they'll just spray you and shut down your weather. Now, here's my frustration. I knew they were going to announce global government with this European crisis years ago. It's now happened. I know all of this. I know they're spraying us every day. I know they're spraying my family. I know we're all filled with heavy metals. I know it's hurting us. And Aarron Dykes, I asked him last Friday, I said, get together our research for Dark Skies, the documentary. We may make it someday, but we're just going to go ahead and start releasing the information and reports. This is just a small part of it right here. Government documents, hour after hour of them on video. Okay? And then I just said, look, he was literally out there 20 minutes ago before we went live. I said, get in here. We got to present what you've got. All these video clips, all this documentation, it's so frustrating. Will the yuppies even watch? Will they even care? Because you get into how they denied this stuff existed, but the people that broke down what they were doing accurately named the chemicals that were being used. But the question is, how long has it been happening? Why is it happening? What's the end game? I'll tell you the end game here at the first, then we'll go to Aarron. The end game is aluminum dioxide in all the soils, where you've got to go to companies like Monsanto. They're coming out with whole seed lines that will grow in aluminum poisoned soil. But that's only part of it. It's about the seed banks, the seed arcs, all of this. It's about weather weapons, shutting down regions that don't play ball. They're already talking about a Chicago mercantile system that will bet on the weather. Well, it's going to be a rigged casino. They don't set up casinos without putting their finger on it, without controlling it. This is about playing God. This is about world government. And this is about genocide and population reduction. Aarron, I'm going to interject points here, but we've only got about 25 minutes, and we'll come back and do part 2, part 3, part 4, because this is so important. It shows how they can keep something bigger than the Manhattan Project secret. We expose it over the years accurately, and they come out and go, yeah, okay, we've been doing it, it's secret, but it's for your own good. And we admit it's happening, but the details are secret. So you've got the floor. Go through as much as you can, the video clips, all of it. This is incredible information.
Yeah, just like you saw back in the 70s with Kissinger and the food as a weapon plans under national security, you see global warming and chemtrails under a national security proposal. And you'll see a lot of the quotes here of Kissinger talking about food as a weapon. Is the U.S. prepared to accept food rationing to help people who can't or won't control their population growth? They're talking about withholding food aid. Would food be considered an instrument of national power? You've heard the Club of Rome talking about how mankind itself is the enemy when it comes to environmental concerns like global warming and the rest of it. The real enemy is mankind. That is from the 1990s with the Club of Rome group. And then coming up at
that was the head of the CFR, too. He's also Club of Rome. That was Haas saying that.
Oh, these groups all interlock, Alex. And you see here where the Air Force wants to, quote, own the weather by 2025 and more, to use it against the enemy and to help their own forces. And it goes on to, it's not cued properly, but Secretary of Defense William Cohen admitting that weather weapons exist, that they can create hurricanes, earthquakes, and the rest of it. So this stuff is admitted, but it is hidden behind a national security pretext, Alex.
Is that the right document?
Well, you've got weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather 2025, and after that is the quote about William Cohen and how they are able to use weather weapons.
Well, take your time. I know I said we're in a hurry, but take your time as we get to these.
Global warming has been called a security threat because it's going to disrupt all these places where there could be droughts or food shortages, and you can guess who's going to be there to create the solution. Here you've got William Cohen saying others are engaging in a type of eco-terrorism where they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. It's real. That's the reason we have to intensify our efforts. He said that in 1997 when he was Secretary of Defense.
That was Army times, yeah.
And the point is, all these military researchers, all these national security people are able to manipulate the weather. They're spraying God knows what up there. We know what some of it is. A lot of it's aluminum and sulfur dioxide and the rest of it. But they've created this rationale that it's going to solve global warming. Now let's go.
That's just their cover. They always denied it until 3 years ago. Now they go, we were doing it, but it's secret. It's to save the earth. We're peaceniks. We're Peace Prize winners.
Yeah. And they admit one of the leading researchers of this whole geoengineering thing is David Keith, and he's got a paper explaining how the cloud seeding for the U.S. and for the Soviet Union goes back to the 20s. And we have clips, I know, from Ben Livingston, if we want to play some of that.
Ready to go? Yeah, this is Ben Livingston, who was the father of weather weapons. And I saw him in a little blurb in an article when they declassified that in the mid-'60s they'd certified Stanford, and he'd done it as a meteorologist. This is a guy in like World War II flying into typhoons. I mean, he's a real trailblazer. It was like almost, I think it was 90 when I interviewed him. I think he's still alive, but yeah, this was like 6 years ago. And, you know, the point with Livingston was they could control, steer, create hurricanes in the 60s. So it just shows how far this stuff's come. Let's go ahead and go to that clip.
My name is Ben Livingston. I'm the first person to ever see a cloud with the intention to cause it to do military damage. I know I can say that, and I did it several times. before the next person did it. We were doing quite a lot of testing work out over the test range at China Lake, California, where we dropped cloud seeding flares or silver iodide generators into clouds or just where we wanted to see what the reaction was. And it was there when I learned for sure that you could really change a cloud by the amount of silver iodide you put in and where you put it. These are cloud seeding dispensing units on the side of C-130s. As you can see, these units held 52. These dispensers held 52 units. We were the first ones to fly into hurricanes for the purpose of modifying them, if you will. That was Project Storm Fury. I began to be extremely confident that we could do whatever about what we wanted to with a hurricane. The Project Storm Fury had been going on since 1961, and they had already done, or had done 2 experiments, one in 61 and 63. Well, by 1964, when I was there in 1964, I wrote the plan and started to have a track and a mission for every flight that was on the hurricane cloud seeding experiments. So we had documentation for everything. Operation at Project Storm Fury are very positive. His report said that we claim they should consider now.
Okay, that's just a short excerpt from an interview I did 6 years ago with Ben Livingston, the father of weather weapons. We're just demonstrating this exists, the cloud seeding, how they do it, moving right along, back to Aarron Dykes, because this is all going on, and you're supposed to just worry about football all day or what Lindsay Lohan's doing. I'm sorry, because what they admit they're spraying is brain damaging the population as neurological disorders go off the charts, as the honeybees die, you name it. Aarron Dykes, continue with your report while we show some footage of videos we were sent from around the world of the geoengineering program.
But Alex, you said this is brain damage. I guess remember, this is all for global warming. It's for our own good. And so you've got all these seemingly wacky proposals to shoot air balloons that spray stuff in the atmosphere, to have little ships that float on the ocean and spray stuff in the atmosphere, to put a hose up into the atmosphere, to have solar reflective things and orbiting the Earth in outer space.
They're just setting the precedent that they control weather.
Yeah, and you've heard them talk about how they want to control the space for the 21st century fight. This is all part of that. It's cloaked under national security and this global warming excuse. And among their other crazy plans is this albedo's plan to inject particles into the atmosphere and the stratosphere to reflect the radiation. Now, that alone will cause a disruption with the radiation forcing, which will change the weather perhaps in unpredictable ways. They know that, but they're still pursuing it because it's their best cover story.
Chemtrails is only one part. They've got the magnetic field generators they now admit in China, Dubai, other places that are just copies of HAARP that are energizing the atmosphere.
But naturally, people have seen the stuff sprayed into the sky, asked questions about it, and as they're proving correctly, want to know more. Well, it all falls under this albedo's plan. I know we have all these clips here about global dimming and about how shooting sulfur into the atmosphere is going to help that process, and it goes on from there.
But isn't it more trendy just to be into acting cool? I mean, why should we even worry about this? Oh, here's some more articles. Yeah, the solar shield. Now that we've exposed this, oh, we are doing it. We're saving you. We've just been testing it.
Yeah, and they're doing it. And here you see Bill Gates. He not only wants to steer hurricanes, but he's funding the plan to shoot stuff into the atmosphere.
Yeah, none of us have property
clouds.
rights. None of us don't have a right to not breathe this, because the little control freak chicken neck eugenicist who daddy runs Planned Parenthood says we're going to breathe it.
So you see again and again academic papers about modifying clouds, creating artificial clouds. You can read them for yourself. You've got preventing global warming by increasing cloud albedo. This is just a few selections because, as you saw, there's literally hundreds of documents. But here, Paul Crutzen, he won a Nobel Prize, and he's very much at the forefront of this whole thing. He's talking about albedo enhancement through stratospheric sulfur injection. He admits they're going to shoot sulfur particles into the stratosphere and atmosphere to try to cool the planet. And that's one of the main proposals that's tied to this spraying from the planes, because you've also got this one from Jay Gorman about how the stratospheric injection of aerosols can be done with fuel additives, aviation fuel additives. The paper describes the selection and preliminary testing of chemicals that might be used as aviation fuel additives to inject these products, sulfur dioxide and micron-sized silica particles, into the stratosphere from commercial or military aircraft. They admit they're testing it, and when it's tested, they have...
Well, this whole program they call testing, well, when is it coming up where they admit they mix it with the jet fuel, the patents?
This is the one right here. Atmospheric testing could be started almost immediately. Separately, there's other patents where they kind of sketch out ways that they can mix powder and create contrails, such as this one.
Here, guys, let's hit pause on that. Incredible job, Aaron. You've really overdone it as usual. You're calling this just the tip of the iceberg. This is quite an iceberg. Yeah, here's some of the patents on the jet engine and how it disperses the sulfur dioxide, the aluminum dioxide, so you can enjoy the massive increases in neurological disorders now plaguing everyone. And this is an InfoWars article from just about a year ago, back last December. And then it lists all the patents, 1619183204585. I mean, folks, don't.
I think there's literally a couple hundred patents.
Yeah, don't. Listen, spend your time. I know TV said it was a conspiracy theory. Why don't you go to the U.S. Government Patent Office? I mean, really, learn.
But then people are going to nickel and dime that this wasn't the one they chose to go with. The point is, they have massive amounts of researchers.
The point is, they admit they're testing it. When we learned the name of the passive aerosol program, we found out it's huge. It's going on. All I know is 15, 16 years ago, trails didn't sit there all day. They admit our Earth's dimming from this. Let's continue. Hurry. There's so much more.
Well, there is a whole lot more. We have right now a clip from John P. Holdren, the Obama White House advisor, and then from Paul Crutzen, the guy who won a Nobel Prize for helping to push this
We're going to get to that in a minute, but have we covered this global dimming plan yet?
Yeah, we just played most of it.
Okay, let's play Holdren and the loving Nobel Prize winner. This is the current White House science czar. They come up with this in the early 90s. They implement it right away with your tax money. A bunch of control freaks playing God. Here it is.
We have to keep geoengineering on the table. We have to look at it very carefully because we might get desperate enough to want to use it. The danger, of course, with geoengineering is the one I was referring to a moment ago. We don't understand the system well enough to predict its responses in detail.
In the first place, we have to reduce the emissions of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And what can we do then? If that is the case, then maybe we are forced to do something in the stratosphere, and that is to deposit sulfur in the stratosphere. Sulfate-containing particles in the atmosphere reflect solar radiation that will cool the Earth. And artificially, we can think of bringing sulfur in the stratosphere at altitude 25 kilometers, where they then would lead to sulfate particle formation and cooling of the Earth.
Incredible, Aaron. They bring up this made-up crap about global warming or any climate change is unusual, and it's really just their excuse when you get deeper in the documents for weather warfare against the third world. But just like Obama's the peace president waging war, it's just a total cover story.
Yeah. I mean, for example, they were going to shoot laser particles to blast away the CFCs back in the late 80s and stuff. I mean, take, for example, this out of Porton Down, where somebody wrote asking about the open-air release of zinc cadmium sulfide in the 50s and 60s, and they say, yeah, we're sorry, but the military reserves the right to open-air test really anything they please.
Yeah, that's U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, subsection 1520A. Let's show a document cam of this. Here's over in England, and they go, yeah, we spray deadly stuff on you. Yeah, we spray deadly stuff on you. Suck it. Die. We fry little foster kids in microwave ovens. You bet. Now die, sheep. Pay that tax money. We love you. If you don't love us, you're a terrorist.
Yeah, and so now we got this whole global warming thing falling apart at the seams. The cover story's busted on that, but they still want to push this geoengineering thing as a solution to a problem a lot of people know is phony. Now, the whole point is they've had hearings in the U.S. and the U.K. on regulating it, and they all call for global solution, and it's all mirrored off of the same proposals that funneled through the Council on Foreign Relations, through various universities.
Club of Rome back in the 60s?
Yeah, and a handful of scientists like David Keith and Ken Caldera have been steering this through all the different science groups getting hearings, but always just pushing for let them test, do not ban, and let's have global coordination. Let's cue up the clip now where the Holdren plan correlates with the CFR plan.
Obama science chief eyes drastic climate steps. Thank goodness he's there to save us. Of course, he says he wants to reduce world population by at least 80% and put chemicals in the water to sterilize us. Obama's plan to geoengineer the planet mirrors CFR policy documents. But aren't we lucky we have these guys? I mean, he says he wants to kill us. It's very nice of him, though. But I guess he can't kill himself yet because he has to carry out the plan first. It's very nice of him, though. And he's so incredible with Bill Gates. Yeah, there's the CFR plan, unilateral engineering.
These are the same plans with everyone. Shoot reflective particles into the upper atmosphere, add more clouds in the lower atmosphere, place reflective objects in space. Extremely expensive and stupid.
But then we're not supposed to notice any of this going on, though.
Change the terraform of the Earth. Change the shading of things on the Earth.
But notice, Aaron, the old-timers 18 years ago did the testing in the atmosphere and said these exact chemicals. And then they were proven right, and it's going on, and the Earth's getting dimmer. And the neurological disorders are going up, and we've covered in our report that Paul did, all the universities, people saying aluminum's going up, we don't know why, and all the soil. And then after we expose all this, they go, yeah, we're doing it for the Earth, but the details are classified.
But that's good if they dim the Earth. They're more intelligent than we are.
Well, exactly. Well, they know they like to kill us. I mean, they said so. We're scum.
Yeah.
Well, they're really killing us, but it's kind of a nice little thing. They're saving us, Aaron.
But that's the gravy, I think, is you've had stuff like...
You're not loving like they are?
Kucinich, among others, wrote the bill back in 2001, calling to ban and restrict exotic weapons, including high-frequency weapons that allegedly also didn't exist at one point, as well as, quote, chemtrails, the little buzz
But we
term.
did show the defense secretary admitting they have them.
But now they are holding hearings on geoengineering, which does exist officially now, and they're telling us how good it will be when they regulate it globally, Alex, either using the places that already exist through the United Nations or creating a new.
But I drew a smiley face on it. It's loving.
Well, if we can play the clips now about the international global accords to hold hearings on geoengineering. Government report calls for global authority on planetary geoengineering. That was Steve Watson reporting on it at Prison Planet. And it just gets into all these hearings.
There's the actual report.
Yeah, this one's from the UK, the House of Commons, regulating geoengineering. Sounds like they're really going to do something about it.
They're going to make sure they're allowed to spray us with aluminum.
They go on to explain how they have a joint agreement with the U.S. and that their committees have gotten together and agreed on geoengineering. They recognize there could be dangers, of course, Alex, but they need an international regulatory arrangement for geoengineering, as you can see here. And
to make it all legal that they're killing us and cutting the water off to Africa and Latin America. Yeah.
And then here how currently it's not subject to regulation. They admit there's no regulation to the testing going on right now. That means they're doing it, Alex. If you read between the lines.
No, they admit they've been doing the testing. You can go pull up thousands of reports of it. But again, none of these documents exist. It's all a pipe dream.
But here's the regulations. More international regulation between the U.S.-UK deal. Here's from the House of Commons. They talk about the transboundary implications of dealing with these new technologies.
But as the CFR said, we'll just do unilateral global.
Yeah, well, they'll do both.
And they got drones bombing everybody anyways in countries, killing them. I mean, why not?
They can't ban it or create a regulatory framework because the technology is not sufficiently predictable. And they explain, too, how cloud seeding will be included in this, and they're going to have to come up with a legalese definition for geoengineering. And again, what I'm showing is different reports that all call for international agreements. This one out of the Congressional Research Service. They had all kinds of different...
No, this goes on in the real world, and then we're all supposed to watch CNN and Fox and hear Glenn Beck make fun of us and tell us none of that exists. Kind of like there wasn't a Bank of the World or a CFR or a Bilderberg Group. Now they admit it all. But the global government's to save us, Aaron, run by the very banks that implemented it all.
And, of course, you know who's pushing all these genetically modified crops, the stuff they're pushing
that
on
sterilize
Africa.
all the animals that eat them, and we see our fertility dropping. But, again, these are nice people. I mean, they openly write papers about how they want to kill us. We should just trust them. I mean, everything's fine, Aaron. They have all these patents where they're mixing it with the jet fuel. I mean, so what? These are good people.
There's so many documents, it was really difficult to narrow
see,
it down,
that last video was a contrail versus a chemtrail. See that? See, the real trail is dissipating. Amazing. Aaron, we're almost out of time. We'll do a part 2 on this. This is incredible. Run through the rest of it.
Well, that's all I have for today, really. But you can see where they admit the Earth is getting more dim by a significant amount.
What do you have in this little
chemtrails.
box?
Just hundreds of other proposals, academic papers, a few more patents.
But it doesn't exist?
A few more government hearings.
I mean, if you even question them geoengineering and say, gee, 18 years ago the trails didn't stay in the air, now they do, and gee, scientists went up in their own planes and tested it, it's aluminum dioxide, barium salts, and jeepers creepers, the government admits they're doing tests with these very things 18 years later. But we're not good because we were proven right, we're bad. Bad man.
It's about getting global approval to live your life, and that includes...
Well, I'm just thankful to all these chicken neck control freak eugenicists spraying my family with poison. Thank you, Ted Turner. Thank you, Bill Gates. Thank you, chicken neck Holdren. Thank you, Dr. Eric Pianka. All of you eugenicists, thank you for all your evil and your control freak. I mean, you just see human life, and it's the ultimate control freak thing. You've just got to screw it all up. Thank you for all you've done. I suggest you line up first to get rid of yourselves. Oh, but you won't. You have to be guardians of the mass murder. Aaron, in conclusion, this is about toxifying the soils and coming out with GMO crops that can only live in it. That's all admitted. It's about having derivatives that bet on the weather and then they actually rig it and control it. Control casino. But it's mainly, as the memorandums you showed at the start, it's about population reduction. And they've said, if you don't pay your IMF World Bank dues, even if you don't owe it, we're just going to shut your water off. And our public's going to watch football games and praise torture. We'll just say you're Al-Qaeda when millions of you starve to death. You understand? Pay us, we own you. And now they're taking the bank accounts of the American people. That is coming up with Gerald Celente. And I guess, in a way, we're actually the bad people. 60 seconds, final summary.
Yeah, you remember the Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns blocks out the sun so he could sell electricity. It may not be the exact same thing going on here, but it's similar. They want to control all the important elements of the atmosphere, of our environment, of our lives, of our right to reproduce. Yeah, they want to kill us or make us pay to live, basically.
But we're lucky we have them. Aaron, take us to break. Celente's coming up. The beekeeper's coming up.
Look, there's a lot more. We're going
Another extremist who's sad the bees are all dying. I mean, another part. It'll be good when the bees all die. The bankers know best.
Yeah.
Why not spray the little bees with aluminum?
And because they figured out a few things with DNA, it makes sense to modify our food and grow it in labs.
Well, see, that's the plan. After they kill everything, then they come back and re-engineer life with a patent. And that's what even Monsanto said about 12 years ago.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Well, what's wrong with that? These are loving people. Hey, you wonder why your 25-year-old wife's dying of breast cancer? You wonder why your 3-year-old's getting a Parkinson's type disease? You wonder why cancer's up 3,000% in diabetes? Because these people are murdering us, and they like it. And they think you're obsessed with football and your pedophile football leaders and the rest of them, and they think you're too weak to wake up and realize these psychos are attacking you. You know, people always think that tyrants are going to look like the last bunch. They're not going to look like Fidel Castro or Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin. They're going to look like John P. Holdren and David Rockefeller. You can either wake up to these tyrants and recognize them now, or they're going to win. I tried my best. Just an average Texan fighting hard. Incredible job to the crew, incredible dedication, and great job to all of you out there who support us. We couldn't do this without you. Get this video from InfoWars Nightly News at prisonplanet.tv and get it out to everybody. They're openly moving to start shutting down the web, as we covered earlier. This transmission must get out. If you're listening to us, you are the resistance. It's now up to you. I hand you the baton. You catch it. It's up to you. I can't do it without you. We're in this together. If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the InfoWars store at InfoWars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe InfoWars t-shirts. We've got the incredible ProPure gravity-fed filters available at InfoWars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there, wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at Infowars.com today. The water filters, the canteens, it's all there. Infowars.com. And we are back on this Tuesday, November 15th, 2011 edition of InfoWars Nightly News. We just broke down how our environment is being assaulted in what is admitted to be a global secret program of geoengineering. it's an admission that there is a secret program going on. We need to know exactly what that program entails and how this aluminum dioxide, barium salts, and sulfur dioxide is affecting not just plant and animal life, but human life as well, as the levels of toxic metals goes up in our soil. And our next guest is going to speak to one of the real canaries in the coal mine of the different biospheres that are on this planet. And then Gerald Celente is joining us, of course, after that. He has had his bank account robbed, all part of the globalist world depression that's being engineered. He had the gold out of his account stolen. Just incredible information breaking here, coming up with Gerald Celente after this interview. Now, Conrad Buffard, if I'm pronouncing that right,
yes, sir,
is our guest. And let me tell you, we are so blessed to have somebody like this right here in Central Texas. He is recognized by many publications, and I have a list of them here, as one of the leading beekeepers in the world. He has the largest beekeeping school in the world. That is undisputed. He started out in bee removal instead of just killing bees that are so important for our environment and the entire life cycle from plants on up. He specialized in that, and he got so busy he quit being a school teacher and moved on from there to now being one of the most successful beekeepers in the world. And his honey is also, of course, shipped all over the United States and the world. And I was mentioning to him that my uncle had worked for Fain's Honey going back, 20 years ago. And he said, oh, yes, we work with Fain's. So I happen to know that's another company that's real raw honey, not mixing in corn syrup or all that other garbage. And they don't strain out all the good stuff that's in it. So we're going to talk about what is real honey, what's happening with colony collapse all over the world, and this report by Texas A&M that 76 or 77%, depending on the brand they tested, of major companies had no honey in it. And I mean that as an oxymoron or as a pun, because it's not honey if it doesn't have pollen in it, and he's going to explain that. It's no longer honey. It's been cooked. It's been totally changed. And it's great to have you here, Conrad. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to just give you the floor. You heard the points I threw out, run through it, and where we stand today.
Sure. Well, this article was like a godsend for most beekeepers, especially beekeepers that are interested in producing raw, unfiltered, unheated honey. And it basically revealed what most all beekeepers know, that the large honey companies are filtering out the pollen and the large sugar crystals and cooking honey from raw honey when they get it in to put it on the shelf, because they believe that consumers want that. They believe that the consumers want honey that isn't really honey by definition. Honey by definition includes the nectar from plants that bees have converted, through their natural processes into the syrupy part of honey, and then the pollen. And the pollen is a critical part. If you take that out, it's not honey. And so, anyone can tell you that honey has to have pollen. So when some of these larger companies come around, and as they've been doing for years now, and take all the pollen out, it does nothing good for the consumer, and it's kind of like taking the engine out of a car.
That's like the system telling us we want white Wonder Bread and not wheat bread. But over the decades, they found, the public doesn't really want that. And when you have allergies, they say eat local honey because it has the allergens in the area. I mean, that's always what's been in honey. That's part of it. And can you speak to, there's a lot of research done on the amazing health benefits of real raw honey, like Round Rock honey. We've got here on the table.
Yeah, there are many benefits to honey. It's been shown to reduce blood pressure. It, in my opinion, has been, and the opinion of many other experts, has been shown to reduce allergies or allergic reactions, histamine type reactions rather. It taken over time it can normalize blood sugar levels. If you have a wound on your skin, if you get burned, you can put honey on it, and it will actually help heal that wound, because honey naturally draws water and keeps the skin moist. It helps. And
it was the only thing still surviving in the Egyptian tombs, 3,000 years old.
Yeah, honey is the only food in nature that's naturally, self-preserving. That's why you can put it in a bottle, you could put it in this glass bottle here and come back in 5,000 years, and it would still be totally edible.
What are the big companies, and we have a list of them, that you see dominating store shelves where it's almost completely clear like water, and it tastes terrible. I mean, I don't like the processed honey. As a child, my mother would buy both kinds. I always liked, the real brown honey. And, more and more people are starting, obviously, to buy the real honey because I see it starting to displace the establishment, so-called natural stuff. But what is that stuff that's on the shelves that is devoid of any flavor and doesn't have any pollen in it?
Sure, it's honey that, and not all honey producers are doing this, but it's mostly among the large honey producers. And typically what they do is, they filter out all the pollen, they heat it above 130 degrees, sometimes for days on end. And the reason why they do that is they want to make all the sugar crystals inside the honey the same size, and they want to filter out all the pollens, because the pollens are, of course, what make it crystallize quicker. So they think, that crystallized honey is bad, and they know what's best for the consumer, so they're going to tell the consumer that it's bad. And it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy that that some consumers believe this, but actually, in reality, if you were to go around to most consumers, they believe that they want honey straight out of the hive because it's a God-given product. There's nothing wrong with honey as it comes straight out of the hive. In fact, you can go like I did when I first started keeping bees over here in East Austin and pull a hive straight out of a church wall or out of a home, the wall of a home or out of an attic, and eat it right there. And it's completely edible.
Well, that's what I buy, and we actually have listeners that also send it to us. I buy the sliced cord, and that's what I like, and then I just spit the wax out.
Right.
I mean, that has the real flavor when it's in the. I mean, obviously you're the expert, but just my taste buds like in the comb.
Right. And if you take comb honey, usually at the bottom of each cell of the comb, there's usually a little bit more pollen that just because of gravity that collects in the bottom part there. So, if you're eating comb honey, you're getting, a little bit more, a little bit higher concentration of pollen. That's just based on my own experience. And then also chewing the wax helps, remove all sorts of things from your teeth. It's a good way to manage tartar in your teeth.
From your research, why? I mean, even medical doctors tell people that have allergies, you need to go and you start eating a lot of local honey when allergy season kicks in. And I've done it myself. It really alleviates a lot of it. What's happening?
You mean when
you eat the local honey, why is it helping with allergies?
I see what you're saying. So you're taking in a small amount of pollen, and you're having a small immune reaction, and over time your body builds up a tolerance to that. It's the same concept as allergy shots, building up tolerance over time until you're at such a point where you don't react anymore to that particular pollen.
Now, I want to get into the fact that you have the largest beekeeping school in the world. That's great that you're bringing real, true agriculture back to society.
Right.
And I'm also interested in what I've read about tax incentives where people can even on small pieces of property knock their property taxes down to almost nothing if they beekeep. I was reading where Bon Jovi has like some $10 million piece of property, but he pays $100 a year. I'm very interested in that because I think we live out in the country. My wife's like, let's get the ag exemption with some donkeys. And I'm like, no, let's do bees. But before we get into that business angle of avoiding the big wicked tax man, who wants to squeeze us to pay it to offshore bankers. What about the crisis bees are going through? There's all these different reports that it's the pesticides, the BT corn, the cell towers, the chemtrails. I'm sure it's a cocktail of things, but from your deep research, because you are respected around the world by folks for being one of the biggest beekeepers out there, what's your gut dead reckoning that's causing this, and how big is the crisis? I've seen numbers in some areas of 80% of the bees gone.
Right, and I think that that's true. I don't. I think that I couldn't put a number on it, but I can say that I don't know a single beekeeper who is doing pollination, like cross-continent pollination, who hasn't lost more than half of his hives. And
I saw that as the average. Some areas around 80, they were saying.
Right. And areas like upstate New York, some parts of Southern California, and this is just talking to people I know in those areas, they've lost everything. I mean, forget 80, 90%. They've lost 100%. They lost every single hive.
Wow.
And I don't know the man, but I heard from another person who knows a gentleman in Florida who took his hives to Montana. And when he got there, the bees were alive. They came back, I think it was 7-10 days later, and literally every hive, there wasn't a bee around anywhere. I mean, they were just gone. And so what that tells me, and also based on just my gut feeling, is that it is exposure to pesticides, and it's a new class of pesticides. There's been a lot of research on neonicotinoids and other types of pesticides like that. Of course, that may not be 100% of the reason. There may be other things like travel fatigue with, the cross-country pollination and stuff like that. But it wasn't, things didn't get really bad until these other chemicals started being introduced, the neonicotinoid brands. And go ahead.
No, I mean, break down what that particular is, because the studies I saw even going back 5 years ago in Germany and other places were that where Bt crops are grown. And for those that don't know, that's a pharmacological crop, right. Where the corn and other crops grows on average about 1,000 times higher level of a natural pesticide that's fungus-based, and whereas insects eat it, they die. And so, yeah, and then you pass it on to humans, and there's all the connections to organ failure and things in mammal species that are mainline science, and that's been connected as part of the cocktail. Is that the same type of pesticide or something different?
Well, I don't know enough about pesticides from a chemical point of view to know if that is exactly it. Well, these are pharmacological crops where it's, I mean, as you know, in the crop itself. Oh, I see, where the seed is coated.
Yes.
The chemical, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that, because, in case in point, cotton. Okay, you take a cotton seed, you coat it, as most commercial cotton seeds are these days, with, a certain chemical, whatever that chemical may be, and you plant it in the ground, it comes up, bees are attracted to cotton. So they're going to go there, and they're going to pick up that, plus they're going to pick up pesticides that have been sprayed over. So it's kind of like a coming up from the bottom, coming down from the top. The bees get hit both ways, and they survive just long enough to bring that pollen back to the hive, and you end up with some cotton honey that's laced with all these other pesticides. There are very few people within the government that I trust to do a really good job, but one of them is a scientist named Dr. Jonathan Barber at the USDA Honey Lab, and I believe he's in North Carolina. And he did a screen on our honey. He's actually done several screens on our honey for pesticides, and it was an exhaustive one. Like, they tested for several hundred pesticides, and they tested down to not parts per million, but parts per billion. And with ours, they found nothing below 7 parts per billion, and that was just remarkable. He said to me, we get honeys in here almost every day that are so laced with pesticides, it's like, it's unbelievable that people would even be allowed to eat this stuff. And he didn't name names, but the assumption is that it's, some of these larger national brands. And so I don't know if that's true or not, but, he's a scientist for the USDA. He's not going to come out and say which ones are which, but, if you were to go one step further with this report by Andrew Schneider, of Food Safety News, and, take these honeys that have been shown to not have any pollen and then also test them for pesticides, it would get very expensive, but I think it would also be very revealing.
And by the way, I was talking to Mike Adams, and you'd also brought this up. You were the one that recommended to Andrew Schneider, this reporter, I think you said a year ago, to go test these big brand name honeys and see if they were devoid of pollen, and he actually went and did it. So now you're saying, now go test for pesticides.
Yeah, I would love to see him do that. I mean, I don't have the money to do that.
Because you've had your honey tested, and you were saying, he was saying it was one of the lowest you'd ever seen.
It wasn't Andrew Schneider. It was the USDA side. Yeah. It's Jonathan Barber.
Can I see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's amazing. Now again, this is Round Rock honey. I've never bought this. I thought it looked great. I always bought Fane's because my uncle worked there for a decade, and he said, no, this is real honey.
Right.
And this is, very, very low pesticide type honey, kind of wild honey being picked up. Right. And I said, is Fane's good? And you said, oh, yeah,
Yeah, Fane's is good. And I think also the other side of this is that while this is showing several honeys that you don't want to buy because they've had all the honey filtered, or I'm sorry, all the pollens filtered out, there are many, many brands, mainly from smaller producers that people can buy that are very good. One of those is Fane's, one is ours, one is, well, I'd have to think some more about some of the others, but they're, all over the country. If you know the beekeeper, and if you're able to go out and see their hives and all of that, then, I would buy a honey from a beekeeper in your area.
Do I get to keep this?
You can keep that, as long as you got to share some with these other guys over here.
Oh my gosh, you guys! I'm like Winnie the Pooh.
Taste it. But
well, I don't want to stick my finger in it.
Hey,
Hey guys, will you bring me a spoon?
Honey is naturally antibacterial.
I know it is. I know it is. They're just
There you go.
Anyways,
Let me say one thing about Andrew Schneider.
Oh, yeah, go
I had
ahead.
a conversation with him 2 years ago, and I talked to him just yesterday by phone and by email. And I said to him, I said, well, do you remember that conversation we had 2 years ago? And he said, well, let me put it this way. Today I got 7,000 emails in response to this. So he's getting, 7 to 10,000 emails a day in response to this article as it's spreading all over the world. And he said, don't take this personally, but I don't remember the conversation, but I don't doubt that we had it. So I said to him, I said, well, I remember it very well because I was very hopeful that you would take it and run with it.
Well, that doesn't even matter. The point is that you're doing a great job, and it's very, very exciting. And here you live right here in Austin, Texas, and we just appreciate everybody's work exposing this. It's also coming out that most of the cereal that they claim that is organic isn't, and this stuff is just causing such an amazing problem. I'm gonna try some of this right now.
Well, let me tell you something about organic and honey after you taste this, and I'll.
Oh man, I love good honey. Here we go. Now it's turned into a food show.
This honey right here has a lot of hackberry and tickweed and broomweed and grasses.
Winnie the Pooh. Sorry.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff.
Let me tell you, I'm not just saying this because you're here, because I'm not a BSer. Better than Fane's.
Well, thank you. Don't tell Fane that, though. I mean, I like the guy. He's a great guy.
No, it's good. That is really good honey. Yeah. But, some people don't like the real honey. They don't like the raw stuff.
Well, if they don't like raw honey, then what do they like? I mean,
exactly.
What's not to love in honey? So,
well, I know there's a lot of other points that after we end this interview that I would have wished I asked and you would have wished that you made. Being kind of a honey master of sorts, what else should we know about what's going on in the world of honey and how it ties into overall agriculture? Because we're seeing government harassment of small farms, ranches, people selling lemonade, people growing gardens in their own yards, people having organic cookouts. Government really seems to be scared of real agriculture. Why is that?
That's the $1 million question. It's probably more like a $100 million question. I really don't know why they're scared, but I can tell you from my own personal experience that, we had a question, just a simple question about the presence of a negative test result that we got back from a USDA lab on the West Coast that was recommended to us. The same lab that tests many of these, most of the honeys on the West Coast for the presence of pesticides. They also test foods and things like that. And they reported to us that they came back to us and said that there was a presence of a chemical called carbofuran, which is extremely deadly to bees. It's deadly on contact. So there's no way if bees were in the presence of this chemical that they would be able to bring it back to the hive. And so basically, I wrote them and I said, well, how could there be carbofuran in it? The scientist went back and he tested and he said, oops, our mistake. And he wrote me a very nice letter apologizing profusely. But that set into motion a 5-year investigation, which just ended yesterday. 5-year investigation by the USDA and the EPA. They both came down. They sent various departments of health. They put us through the ringer 9 ways to Sunday. And the assumption was that we were guilty until proven innocent, not the other way around.
And you were sending it to be testing because you wanted to know. You've sent your stuff to other government labs, and they said best ever. So again, you're there researching your own self, and then they're freaking out. Because I guess they don't want to really talk about this. I bet these big mega companies, that you were kind of alluding to earlier, you said that the head scientist said, yeah, I don't know why they're allowed to do this.
Right. There's definitely a double standard. If you're a small up-and-coming company and you don't have the money to, really defend yourself, then they're going to treat you like a whipping child. It's just there's no two ways about it. And I went so far as to write a letter to then President Bush and work through the city of Round Rock, to work through a number of people in Washington, D.C. to address this member. And I eventually spoke with the man who was the former head of the FDA. And then I spoke with the field investigator in Dallas for, I think it was the EPA. I could be wrong about the organization, but I spoke with some pretty senior folks. And they said, okay, well, we're going to check into this and we're going to look into it. But then nothing happened, And it was like, so you're basically intent on harassing me. And I said that directly to him. And he said, no, we don't harass people. And it's like, well, what is this? And I said, when all this is over, am I going to get an apology? And there was no response to that. Well, I got a form letter yesterday saying, hey, we concluded and we found exactly what you said, that there was nothing in it. No apology, no nothing. And I just thought to myself, you know, I really need a, you know, I could wring someone's neck over this. I mean, it was just absolutely insulting. And if I hadn't been the combative type, they would have just steamrolled me. You know, I mean, in other words, if I hadn't taken them on and took them to task, saying, look, I have this testing, I know what's real, and you can't tell me what you think is real because your results have been proven to be bad and mine have been proven to be good over and over and over again. And so, you know, but they never apologize. They'll never admit, hey, we screwed up. That's our mulligan. You know, they won't say that. So,
Conrad, in closing, how important are bees to the global ecosystem? And I mean, is it a serious alarm bell that all over the world they're dying en masse?
Can I say hell yeah on TV? I mean,
well, if it's killing them, what's happening to us?
Well, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. If we don't start putting a beehive in every backyard, if we don't start getting people more interested in bees and keeping bees and all of that, and people go into our beekeeping school and doing all those sorts of things, you better get used to eating rice and oatmeal because that's about all you're going to get. You're not going to get nuts. You're not going to get fruits. You're not going to get most vegetables like squashes and things like that. I mean, you know, so the bees, they do the majority. They do, you know, the load, the biggest load of pollination. And so you're not going to see the grocery stores. In the grocery stores,
yields would go way down. I mean, they've estimated like 60% without them.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's actually more like 60 to sometimes even 80% of the stuff, depending on the grocery store, depending on, you know, like if you're in a Whole Foods versus a Sam's Club, you know, how much of the produce section do they have? This would, if bees weren't around, you wouldn't have. You just wouldn't flat out, you just wouldn't have blueberries.
Is the establishment, not just government, but like the big mega agri, are they even concerned about this? Or?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't exactly have the kind of relationship with the government or with big agri where we talk around.
Sure, but I mean, just from being, you know, from researching, I mean, do they seem to be concerned about colony collapse at all? Or?
Well, you know, the government responds to things like colony collapse by starting a program or a study or doing something like that. And you know, we're in a crisis situation. This is not the time to study the issue.
Yeah, we know the bees are dying.
Right.
This isn't like Al Gore and global warming.
Right, right. I mean, you know, so that's their response. And my personal opinion is that that's a weak response. There has been a resurgence in interest in keeping bees. And just in our beekeeping school, just since April, I ran the numbers yesterday, we have trained 2,460 people to be beekeepers. That's just since April. And
there's also tax incentives.
To having hives on your land. That's right, because bees are treated like cattle in Texas. I don't know about other states, but if you have a hive, you know, or if you have a certain amount of hives and you have them for a certain amount of time on your land, then definitely there's a tax abating benefit to it. So,
well, we've had a link to your website up there on the screen, but people can visit that there and find out more. Conrad, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good job to the folks exposing what they're doing with the so-called honey. It's kind of like this pasteurized milk. It's not really even milk. It's more like a liquid cheese. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to break and come back with some hardcore information with Gerald Celente. I mean, it's time to get your money out of the big banks. It's time to if you've got gold, to physically hold it, because they stole his gold. They stole his gold. Russia Today earlier today got him on to talk about the world economy meltdown he predicted. And he said, by the way, let me just announce to everybody they've stolen my gold. He was keeping his gold in a safety deposit type banking system, and it's been taken by a company that, quote, collapsed. And you're going to see this more and more. I mean, this is a depression. This is serious, serious business, and we have criminals running our society. We're going to go to break. Gerald Celente, straight ahead. If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the InfoWars store at InfoWars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe InfoWars t-shirts. We've got the incredible Pro Pure gravity-fed filters available at InfoWars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there, wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at Infowars.com today. The water filters, the canteens, it's all there. Infowars.com. My friends, it is the final segment of this November 15th, 2011 edition of InfoWars Nightly News. And I can't think of any news or information that I've ever covered in the last few years that shakes me up as bad as this information I'm about to cover, because it really shows that the foregone conclusion of total collapse that Jim Rogers talked about last night, that Ron Paul's talked about, isn't just coming, it's pretty much arriving. The train is pulling into the station. And that we've seen the pension funds of the troops stolen by the big insurance companies. We've seen tens of trillions paid by American taxpayers to prop up derivatives. We see the euro going down. And now we're seeing more and more runs on banks. Bank of America, I mean, the list goes on and on. It is so scary to know how right we've been. And it's very poignant. A synchronicity, serendipity, I don't know, that Gerald Celente, probably the top trends forecaster in the world, has with precision predicted exactly what's happened. We're in the collapse. The system's still denying it, but everybody knows. That on the same day it came out in Fox News, and we have a graphic of this, MF Global may have been sick for a while, and buried in the article, it says $600 million is still missing from customer accounts. Gerald Celente had gold that he was taking physically delivered, physical delivery of, and they are telling him he's not going to get it, that they've gone into bankruptcy and it's been taken by the trustee, when they know whose physical gold it is. And they break down the facts here. The reason this is such a big issue is Gerald is a prominent media analyst and geopolitical analyst, and it happened to him. What are the numbers? I mean, he's 1 in a billion. Imagine if it happened to Gerald Celente, how many other people this happened to, not just with MF Global, but with other companies. And the fact that they're acting like this is normal and they're not going to go to jail like Bernie Madoff, and the fact that the big boys like Congress are now admitting they're involved in insider trading, giving government contracts to companies their wives and husbands own or that they own stock in, and the fact that they say they're above the law and that they're allowed to, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. I mean, I know the white shoe boys, the kleptocrats, the prostitutes, all the terms that Gerald has coined or promotes are criminals. But my God, it's like Jim Rogers said last night. You heard about crony capitalism in Asia. This takes the cake. And Homeland Security is their system to protect their diabolical, premeditated heist. They have engineered this, and they don't care if you know, and they're just getting started. Over $100,000. He's not going to say the full number. It's over 6 figures of gold that's been his for months, trying to take delivery, and they said, you're not getting it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is bombshell. And Fox News is one of the only outlets reporting it, and it's just a minor footnote. You know what? 600 million's missing, and it turns out they've got all these billions and billions of dollars that they've got in other assets. They're just stealing the actual gold from the depositors. This is too much, ladies and gentlemen. We now turn to Gerald Celente, who just learned very recently, we'll find out exactly when, but he announced it today, that he has literally had his gold out of his account robbed. Bank robbers. And if he complains, maybe a SWAT team will drop by. Folks, no one is safe. No one's accounts are safe. Gerald Celente, I mean, this is off the charts insane. Did I get it right? Correct anything if I was wrong.
Yes, you got it essentially right. And I've been saying this a long time. You know that they're going to impose some level of economic martial law. And I thought, of course, it would be in the banks, that they're going to call a bank holiday of some sort and devalue the dollar. But what I did is I had an account, and I've been trading gold, by the way, Alex, since 1978. I've never had a problem. What I do is like airlines and grain companies, you buy futures, and I buy gold futures. Some people speculate with them. I buy futures with the intention of taking delivery. So I had enough money in my account, and I had contracts that were coming due in December, which is next month. Last Monday, I get a telephone call. Again, the company I used to deal with was called Lind-Waldock. Bypassed me. I never realized that they got bought out by MF Global. Didn't make any difference. Been dealing with them for years. As I said, I've been around commodities a long time. Nothing of this type have ever happened. So I get a call. I have a margin call. That means I don't have enough money in my account to support my gold positions. I said to the guy, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm taking delivery at the end of the month. I got a ton of money in my account. Oh, no, you don't, Mr. Celente. The money has been taken out of your account. I said, who agreed to take the... What are you talking about? He said, well, Lind-Waldock is owned by MF Global, and they decided, the CME group and another party, that they're going to take the money and put it with a trustee. I said, oh, yeah, you mean the Meyer Lansky group and the Al Capone group decided to take all of my money out of my account and then ask me for a margin call to put in more money into a sinking ship? I said, what, are you out of your mind? I'm sorry, Mr. Celente, that's all we know. If you don't come up with more money, we're going to close your accounts, your positions. So now, Alex, they have my money, they close my positions, and I can't get any of it. Now, let's put this into perspective. The guy that was running this operation, John Corzine. Hey, where did John Corzine come from? Well, he's originally a Goldman Sachs guy. You know, one of those fine people out there. And then he became governor, senator of New Jersey. That wasn't good enough for him. Gave it to New Jersey really good. I'm going to become governor. So he becomes governor and senator of New Jersey, runs that place into the ground. And by the way, Corzine, if you're listening, you know that car accident you got into a while ago and you almost died? You SOB, you should have died because you ruined a lot of people's lives, stealing their money. You know what he was doing, Alex? Because he's connected with the boys. You know, they give him preferential treatment, trading rights. Oh, the guy that runs the Commodities Future Trading Commission? Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler. Hey, he gave Corzine, I think, $10,000 for his campaign. It's a contribution, capisce? Yeah, it's a bribe and a payoff. Gary Gensler runs the Commodities Future Trading Commission for the United States of America. And they let these guys get away with all these dirty deals as they're pulling them off and bringing everybody down. So now Corzine, he's going to play, according to reports that I read, you go to Las Vegas over there, Alex, and you go put $1 down on the table. And you say to the guy dealing the cards, that's not $1, that's $40. That's right, that's what the house said I could bet. Every dollar down, I can make a $40 bet. That's what he was doing. So now what happens is brilliant Corzine's betting on European bonds. You know what's going on in Europe. The bond market's going berserk. Italy's on the verge of going Greek, with the bonds hitting over 7%. You look at what's going on. He bet on Portuguese, Irish, all the losing bonds, Spain. So now the bet in total, as I read it, it's about $40 billion that this guy's controlling. The shortfall that they can't find is $600 million. The CME group that runs the commodities game, they've come up and they said, we'll cover $300 million. So now we're talking about a $300 million shortfall out of a $40 billion pie, and they steal everybody's money out of their account. You tell me what's going on, because my suspicion is they don't have the gold and silver to deliver.
That's it. Well, that's what Max Kaiser and you and many others predicted, was that they were going to end up being short. But my God, the boldness of this to actually not deliver your gold, and then you have all these other positions, and then just say we're going to shut down your account, and I guess let you then go negative on those. I mean, I don't know where you stand, but this for me, studying history, correct me if I'm wrong, Gerald, is a new level of naked corruption, just in-your-face hubris that is off the charts, and we see it all over the place. But here you are individually, well over $100,000. You won't say the number. It's over six figures. You say it's over $100,000. It's your gold. They have stolen it out of your account, and then we know that Bank of America's moved $79 trillion in derivatives into the taxpayer-backed FDIC, and there's no way to pay this back. It's their debt. Their whore media, though, is going to say that, well, it's America's debt. You've got to pay it. We don't have it. So they've got to know that as this comes out, it's going to fully destroy confidence. But because the crooks at Goldman Sachs and the rest of it have their people over every major government, where does it end? Do they just, we all get thrown out of our houses and are homeless, except for the cops manning armored parapets with the bankers laughing behind them? I mean, how much criminality do we have to see? I mean, it's such a bold move to steal your money. And then to admit it, and it's a minor footnote.
I know, they're doing it worldwide. Look what's going over there, as I said, in Italy. And see, here's the scam that's going on. As the systems keep collapsing, one keeps blaming the other. You saw Obama blaming China for keeping its currency artificially low. China keeping its currency artificially low? How about public enemy number one, Osama bin Bernanke, devaluing the dollar? And that's why I've been buying gold all these years. And by the way, I buy coins, I buy bullion, and I buy for possession, all of it. But I also, because of my retirement account, I have also money in ETFs. And I'm afraid I'm going to lose those too. So now I'm taking those, cashing out of those, and also trying to secure that, because they are going to steal all our money.
Gerald, I told my wife last week, and I want to hear what you recommend. We have about 4 months of operating capital to run the 35 employees and contractors, the building, everything. That's not very much for folks that don't know, who aren't in the news business. But some places are actually, you know, upside down. At least we're not that way. And people helped us out. People subscribe in this horrible depression. They support us. But me and my wife were talking. We're like, what do we do with the backup capital for this place and the little bit of capital we've got for our own family? Most of it is in gold and silver here and there, but it's not that much. What do we do with a little bit of cash we use, you know, to be able to pay bills and things? And I told her, I said, we've just got to get it all out. We've got to have the bare minimum, because they're going to take it all while they're stealing it by devaluing it. But again, that was my next question for you. What do you recommend I do? What do you recommend others do? Because this happened to you on 9/11, where they wouldn't let you have your pension fund, or wouldn't let you have your 401k.
CDs. I had my money in CDs.
Yeah, CDs. So A, what would you do if you were Alex Jones, A, and other businesses? But B, what does this signal that it's getting so bad that A, the media is not even really covering it, just a minor footnote, and B, it even happened to you? I mean, my God, how big do you think this iceberg really is?
It's huge. And I'm a very cautious investor. You know, it wasn't like I'm a high-roller speculator. I've been building my positions very slowly with the intention of taking delivery, and they took the money out of my account. I'll tell you where my position is. I wrote about it in the Trends Journal. It's there in black and white. I recommend that people have only operating expenses in their bank. Why do you think you hear all of these stories over the years about people putting their money under their mattress? Because the banks are going to steal it from you. And Alex, I don't want to use that word banks anymore. Let's call it by its proper name. They're loan sharks. That's all they are. They're loan sharks. Can anybody say those words? Stop calling them bankers. because that's all they are. That's all what this is about. Austerity measures in Europe. The loan sharks want their money. Who made the bad bets? You're asking the people who lost their jobs, that never had jobs, that have degrees in worthlessness from coming out of school and being in debt, to bail out the bankers that made bad bets. That's all this is. Look who, as I said, look who they put in charge of running Italy now. The wonderful technocrat, Super Mario Monti. They call him Super Mario. How about three-card Monty? Where did he come from? The Trilateral Commission. Another Goldman Sachs guy, by the way, just for the record. Yeah, how about calling Italy Government Sachs? And who's the clown that they just put over there from Greece? Oh, the wonderful Greek democracy. They brought in, quote, a technocrat and all of the prostitutes. The New York Times, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal. What respected men they are. He comes from the European Central Bank. He was the vice president. The banks are taking over. The loan sharks want their money. That's all this is. So what I'm saying, for me, only operating expenses. I have a secure place, not very far away, but far away enough where I put my money and my possessions that no one will find but me.
And you got to carry a heater, and you got to be physically trained and ready to
blow anybody's brains out in a second that tries to come into my life and break in. You know, I'll make it really clear. I will protect my rights. If my life is threatened, I'll take anybody's life that tries to take mine.
Gerald, you hit on something key here. The media always demonizes old-timers. Old-timers were just the generations before us that had already been through this over and over again. They knew how to farm. They weren't going to let any government bureaucrat come around and boss them around. They had guns, and they weren't playing games. And they didn't want any government help in all this bull because they had lived through it. And now we're about to find out those old-timers weren't stupid like the corporate whore prostitutes told us they were. They were smart, and the general public was conned, because it's clear now. How bad is this depression going to get, Gerald? And then I want you to get into what are you planning to do to these creatures over here at this company, MF Global. What are you going to do to these people? Because they're so arrogant now. They've obviously been, like we learned 11 years ago, Prudential and others were told. This is Bloomberg even reported this last year. Nobody got in trouble. For those that didn't see it, the major insurance companies got together with the Department of Defense and said, we're going to trick people with a form we send them telling them, get your husband's death benefits if he died from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War I. We're going to get that money. We want those trillions. And the U.S. government said, yeah, thank you. We're going to help you steal that money. And then they steal the death benefits. I mean, Bank of America's on record taking houses, forget not having the deed that they never even owned part of. I mean, people, when Gerald says it, he's not just saying it. These are actual above-the-law criminals with the entire Department of Defense backing them, and brainwashed police who have been hired in the psychological evaluations because they're mentally ill bullies. Not all of them, but that's who they're trying to recruit. I mean, folks, it's like Jim Rogers said. He said yesterday, get out of the U.S., but where are you going to run? It's Nazi Germany, it's Soviet Russia, but it's America style. Gerald, I know I'm ranting, but where do you see things going, and how do we fight back? Obviously, we pull our money out. I've got to get behind this now 100%. I mean, this is out of control. And what do you do to these people who arrogantly say, you're not getting your money, and Mr. Celente, we're shutting your account down? You got that? I mean, that is just, man, these people are arrogant.
Oh, yeah, they're arrogant because look who they are. I mean, look at John Corzine. You know, they just shut down a whole bunch in New York City one time. As a matter of fact, I think you were there when they were doing it one time as well, when Obama came into town.
Yes.
Yeah, John Corzine throwing these $35,000, you know, a ticket dinner to go sit down with Obama. They're all one of the boys. Anybody that breaks the rules a little bit, The goons come in, put you in handcuffs, throw you in jail. Corzine walks. $600 million they can't find. He's fine at home. How come he's not in jail until they sort this out, like they would do to you and me? Because he's one of the White Shoe Boys, a member of the Goldman Sachs gang. I want to make this really clear, Alex. I'm going to say it over and over and over again. If the names on Wall Street were named Celente, Caruso, Mondavi, Puccini, Rossini, they make it a great mafia movie. Hey, Sumner Redstone. That's right. Or is it Rothstein? How about doing a movie on the Wall Street Gang? I've had enough of The Sopranos. I've had enough of Jersey Shore. How about doing one on the Wall Street Gang and name their names? Because I'm sick and tired of you and these other cheap SOBs running Italians into the ground. If Corzine's name was Celente, you SOBs would be making a mafia movie over it. But no, you read the New York Times. Oh, it's a sad day for Corzine. His pride is so hurt. Oh, it wasn't bad enough losing the governorship. But now, of course, he has lost some face in the investment community. That's the way they handle it. How about going, Bloomberg cleared out Zuccotti Park. It was, he said, an unsanitary condition. You want to see a lot of crap, Bloomberg? It's up to here, right down the street on Wall Street. How about shoveling up that crap? This is a lot of baloney, Alex. Fascism has come to America. I've said it over and over again. The merger of state and corporate powers, it's worldwide. Super Mario, the banker, is taking over in Italy. Another clown banker has just taken over in Greece. And the bankers have already taken over America.
And by the way, Gerald, in 2002, we got the IMF World Bank documents where they plan to bring down Europe first, then Asia, then the United States. They're just imploding each country as they move along. And my issue is, how much, will we put up with? We've got the government shipping guns into Mexico being caught so they can try to attack the Second Amendment. We have lamp poles being put up by Homeland Security with microphones listening to us. They're groping small children. They're putting TSA checkpoints on the road. Meanwhile, the people serving the system are having their whole future destroyed.
Here's what I recommend. Pull your money out of the banks. Take it out. What are you getting for keeping your money in the bank?
Zero.
Zero. Why would you, and what are they loaning it out at? You're late on your credit card, they hear for 30%. You're giving them your money so they can make money on you. Number two, all this Black Friday crap. They're making people work on Thanksgiving. Don't buy anything from the chain stores. I keep saying it over and over again. Break the chains, because as long as you keep supporting them, you're going to be chained by them. Support the workers. They make the workers in this country seem like we're a bunch of losers and that we're lucky to have jobs by the good graces of the corporations. Break the chains. Don't buy a damn thing you don't have to buy this Christmas. How about this for a wild idea, Alex? How about celebrating Christmas, I don't want to get in trouble for this, in the spirit of Christ? How about giving from the heart? How about going out and helping people that need help? How about every gift that you give the loved one, try to make it, bake it, do something yourself. Don't go out and buy a bunch of plastic crap that a kid is never going to use and you don't need.
Well, Gerald, listen, as you know, until the 30s and 40s when they commercialized it, Christmas was about cooking with the family, making candy, fudge, cookies. It was about going down and helping the poor. I'm not saying my family's perfect, but most Christmases, we would actually go down to the Salvation Army. We would actually, and let me tell you, that was a lot more valuable than some cheap toy to go down and see homeless people and serve them soup all day and help them out. And the fact that people would look at that is so wonderful. That's not wonderful. That's what people always did. That's what Christmas was. You know, just like the Christmas Carol, it was about helping Tiny Tim. But it's the opposite now. You're right. We go into debt to these banksters, buying a bunch of crap we don't need and we can't afford, made in China. So I agree. If we do buy stuff, it should be from little arts and craft stores, made in America. At the same time, we went to the beach and got a bunch of seashells that we've painted. We're going to give to family as soap dishes. I'm not saying I'm great or something. The point is you're right. That's what Christmas is really about, family time and helping people. By the way, I've got to stop you, Gerald. It just broke in Reuters. It's just now coming out in the last hour that the federal government, if I go back to that last headline, there's a headline from Forbes, MF Global, where did the money go? And then there's another report from Reuters saying that the CFTC has a dim view and believes it may be nefarious. Commissioner suspects nefarious MF Global activity. Gee, I wonder, in the last few days, give us the timeline when this happened to you, Gerald, but I looked it up before we went on here. Others have been reporting this the last few days. They've stolen the $600 million to cover their bad casino bets and just tell you, go fly a kite somewhere. But now the government is saying they have a nefarious view of this. I mean, I guess if I go rob a bank for $600 million a day, will they a couple days later say, oh, the CFTC has a nefarious view of what Alex did with his shotgun? Gerald.
Yeah, that's it. Again, you know, it's the two-tier system. As I said, the word justice, everybody's spelling it wrong. It's J-U-S-T-U-S, just us. There's no justice out there for these guys. As you said, yeah, oh, Alex Jones committed a nefarious act. Let's see how it plays out. Boy, they'd have you down on your belly with your hands behind your back with handcuffs on that you're losing the circulation in your arms if you turned any dirty deal. But for the other guys, let's see how it plays out. And I want to go back to this, Alex. We can break it. The people can break it. And this is the way it can be done. This is the Christmas to bring Christmas back into the spirit. Let's start breaking the chains. As you said, buy from local craftspeople. Buy whatever you like, but make sure you're buying quality. It's made in America, and you could afford it. Don't buy one thing from the chains. Do you realize that Walmart has 10% of all the retail action in this country? When I was a kid growing up, there were stores everywhere that people used to own. You could have your own business. Imagine that. You didn't have to be a clerk or a cashier when you grew up.
And by the way, you get horrible service at these big box stores, too. Back when we had all these choices, if people didn't give you service, they went out of business. So we had a higher service economy. When you pulled up, they had entry-level people to check your car, check the tires, check the oil, and give you some service. And they've done studies that actually cars break down more now because you don't have that service. But Gerald, I want you to finish up there, but I want to put a quote back up here. The hundreds of millions of dollars missing from MF Global accounts may have disappeared 4 days before the firm filed for bankruptcy at the end of October. You need to be interviewed by Forbes and others as one of the victims. You can give them more intel. They're running around at Forbes and Reuters just in the last hour and a half. This is breaking. I guess you broke it first on RT earlier today. They're running around wondering what's going on. You can tell them you had over $100,000 in your account and it's gone, and they told you it's the trustees have it. So they're using it for their bankruptcy. So Forbes and others are asking, what does this have to do with their bankruptcy? You know, it's been secured to pay, I guess, for other expenses of MF Global. Isn't that just special, Gerald?
Yeah, but this is what they do. It's a criminal operation. Like I said to the guy when he told me this news, I said, who decided this? Meyer Lansky and Al Capone? You're giving me this line of baloney? Oh, the guys decided to put it with a trustee? This is my money out of my account. It's like going into your bank and taking the money out of your account. It's as simple as that. And again, I've been doing this since 1978. This has never happened before in all of the trading of commodities since I've known about it. This is unprecedented. And there are businesses that are going under because of how they've been leveraging out to secure future prices. You know, fortunately, you know, I don't want to lose this money, but it's not going to ruin me. It's ruining a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Some people, it's their whole savings. And when some local scam artist does it, they go to the pen for 20 years. When these guys do it, we just found a law firm.
You know, it's hurting me a lot. You know, but this doesn't bring me down. And I've worked hard for this money. And there have been times in my life when I've had nothing. You know, I've had my bad
No.
years.
You sacrificed to build to where you are.
You know, so now they're taking my hard-earned money and they're giving Corzine a lot of beautiful space in the newspapers that the public relations firms that he hires say what a wonderful guy he is. As I said, the SOB would have been better off dead in that car accident he was in rather than ruin so many people's lives, because he's another one of those greedy money junkies who's worth an estimated, according to the reports, $500 million. But $500 million wasn't enough. Didn't get him up there with the other money junkies, did it? So he had to go pull off this major scam. Where's the money, and how come we're not getting it? Why was it robbed from our accounts? There's no reason for it.
And let's be clear, you weren't invested in the MF Demon Global. You had another company that you invested with. It was your account. They came and took that company over and then sucked the money out. And breaking, this just came out on Bloomberg. There's now a law firm has filed suit today. We'll put it back up on screen, a big high-powered group. They were on Bloomberg in New York. So this is big. They've angered a lot of people. This is Bernie Madoff type stuff. Tibbetts, Keating, and Butler, LLC New York, and Connecticut-based law firm is now representing clients in the matter of MF Global's bankruptcy and the improper seizure of clients' segregated funds. And again, you read into the article from Bloomberg, they're admitting this is like robbing a bank account. They are now bank robbing people, as you said on RT today.
That's right, Alex. And I've been saying on your show over and over and over again, and of course, I didn't think this was going to happen. I had no idea. You know, again, I've been dealing with this company for years. And it wasn't like, you know, they were running my money. It was just like opening a stock account with Schwab. No different than that. And then all of a sudden, your Schwab account is emptied out because Schwab stole your money. That's all I'm talking about. So I had no idea. But what I'm warning people, and I've been saying over and over again, mark my words, they're going to declare an economic martial law. They're going to steal your money just like they're stealing mine. And they're going to make up some bogus excuse like, oh, the Iranians or the North Koreans or Al-Qaeda or Mother Goose or somebody is going to be the reason why we're closing the banks. And they're going to devalue the dollar. And they've done it before under FDR in 1933. And they're going to do it again.
Gerald Celente, I know you're going through a lot right now, not just having the 6 figures stolen, but if somebody came to my house and stole $10, it would make me mad. It's the violation. I mean, tell us briefly the timeline of when you learned this, the thoughts that went through your head. I mean, this is what you've been predicting, but it's actually hitting you. I mean, it's incredible. It's like Job or something. And then in closing, what you personally are planning to do, and any other closing comments about where you see things going, Gerald Celente.
It happened last Monday around 11 o'clock in the morning. And I got a call from the brokers saying that they wanted more money to cover my positions, my open positions, December contracts. And I said to him, I have plenty of money in my account. What are you kidding me or what? And then he told me the deal about Lind Waldock had been bought out by MF Global. And I didn't know that, didn't pay any attention. So every time I'd pick up the phone, to call them, place an account, Lind Waldock, they'd answer the phone.
So at first it hadn't really dawned that this heist was happening?
No, and I never put the connection with MF Global. I knew about what was going on with MF Global, been reading about it, But yeah, I never put the connection together that it was my commodities account, because I'm reading about this Corzine character dealing in bonds with buying European bonds.
Okay, so they string you along. Tell us about that. What was the play-by-play?
So now, so now he tells me I have to put money in my account. I said, I'm not going to put money in my account. You have my account. No, you don't have your account. Your account is now with a trustee. They closed out all my positions, and they took my money, and they're holding it.
And you got to love how they spin it. They take your 6+ figures and then spin it like, now give us more money. Like somehow you are in arrears.
Exactly. and even though I'm up on my contracts. So in other words, they closed out my contract, let's say at $1,767 an ounce, but I had bought it way, way lower than that. And now it's at $1,790. And they still want me to pay. It wasn't like I was losing on these accounts. They want more money. I said, I'm not giving you more money. Then we're closing out your account.
Yeah, by the way, I bet they went to all their clients and did that, and I bet they kept what you old ladies and stuff that got more in there. They probably snapped that up, and that's how the cons always work, and said, now give me more and you'll get it back. And then you give more in.
Exactly. So now I'm trying to get answers. Is the account insured? First they tell me yes, and then they tell me no. Commodities accounts are not insured. Where's my money? Well, it's with the trustee. You try calling the trustee and getting any answers. I had to hire a bankruptcy attorney. That's where I'm at now. So that's why I'm trying to get my money back. I'll probably get, some of it back. How much, I don't know. But the reality is they emptied out my account. It wasn't as though they were trading for me or I had invested my money in their investment fund. By
the way, you were on RT basically this morning, and now it's breaking today. I wonder if you going public on national news brought this out. This is just incredible. So it took you basically a week to go ahead and figure out what was happening and go public. And this can move so quickly if you study history as you've done. Who knows what's going on with other companies right now? Like you said, look at Europe. Gerald, do you have that feeling like we're standing at the edge of a cliff collectively?
No. I feel like we're standing under a building that's collapsing, and it's going to crush us. That's what I feel. Look at the names that they give these clowns. They got this committee in Washington that's going to figure out our debt problem. A super committee. Super committee. I mean, who are they kidding? A bunch of political hacks that have been hanging around forever on the government dole. Look at the numbers that came out today. 200 and more, over half of the senators and congressmen are multimillionaires. What are you kidding or what? You don't have a representative form of government. Oh, by the way, this is breaking news. Do you know how I've been talking about direct democracy? And we put up the website, directdemocracynow.org.
Yes, months ago.
Pick up yesterday's Financial Times, an interview with Vladimir Putin. You know what he's calling for, the changes in Russia? Quote, direct democracy. That's right. Vladimir Putin in Russia is saying, let the people vote. That is a solution. That's our only solution, because we have a gang of 535 that are telling us how to tie our shoes. The senators and congressmen.
Well, that was my final question, and we appreciate all your time. We're going to let you go, Gerald. Hopefully I can get you back up, say, Thursday or Friday to give us an update on this incredible story, maybe even tomorrow, but I plan to air this on the show tomorrow. What about, we know there's been insider trading in Congress, but now they've gone public and they say we're above the law. I mean, what about that? I mean, it's so crazy.
That's what I'm saying. And these are the people that are supposed to be representing us. You know, who made this up? How could any imbecile believe it? They don't represent us. They represent the people that stuff their pockets filled with cash. Look at that Dianne Feinstein. I want somebody out there to look up how much she was worth before she became Senator Feinstein and is now worth $60 million.
Well, Gerald, look at, I mean, in closing, look at Pelosi, in a 2-year period, had a 69% increase in her wealth when the general public's wealth went down by over 20%. It's incredible. Gerald, again, they will be brought to justice, though. The good news is these hubris-filled crooks are going to keep pushing till they finally destroy themselves. I mean, do you have any doubt that in the final equation, these banksters are going to be in some kind of financial Nuremberg trial like Madoff?
Not in the current system that it is now. Only if the people stand up and take a position. But again, you know, I'm all in favor of a peaceful revolution. And you know, as I said, let's start with the spirit of Christmas and move from there forward.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us, and I look forward to speaking to you later. Gerald, we've had it up on screen while you've been on, but what's the best of the 2 URLs for folks to visit and get your incredible news alerts and also the trends forecaster?
Trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com, and we're updating every day as we move through this as well. So I'd love to update with you too, Alex.
Well, you should be on every channel. I mean, you've been on every channel. They should have you on every live show right now.
They don't want me on because who are they? Look who NBC just hired to be a correspondent. Chelsea Clinton.
Oh.
What more do you need?
And look who she's
know?
married to, one of these bankers.
Yeah, and what credentials she has, you know? Yeah, connected credentials. They don't want me on.
And she's married to one of the big loan sharks.
Me.
I mean, it's government for and by loan sharks. Incredible. Gerald Celente, thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you, Alex.
I mean, it is hard to believe that this is happening, but it's admitted. And they just report it like, oh, they took all these people's money out of their personal accounts. Still a big deal. This is part of the insanity that we live under when we allow crooks to run things just because they're wearing fancy suits and have names like Henry Paulson. You saw the geoengineering chemtrail special report tonight. You saw what's happening with the honeybees dying off. And now Gerald Celente having his bank account robbed of 6+ figures. It is incredible. We'll be back tomorrow on the radio, breaking this down 11 a.m. Central, and we'll be back, of course, tomorrow night here for InfoWars Nightly News. We couldn't do any of this without your subscriptions, your support, all the things you're doing. That's why we've ramped up in the face of the depression and the global takeover, because we know that we've got to meet this threat. And we know that as the tyranny gets worse and worse, more and more people are going to be ready to wake up. Thank you for your support, and please spread the word about Infowars.com, about Gerald Celente and his work, about the Nightly News. And if you're watching these videos out there in cyberspace, send them to your email list, post them on Facebook, send them out on Twitter. They're wanting to censor the web. These criminals want to bring in draconian control to protect themselves from the people. We've got to use the internet while it's still here. They're openly talking about shutting us down right now. We're risking our lives to bring you this information because we know we've got a fighting chance to beat these people. And I will not have the alternative of living on my knees as a slave. It's victory or death. I'm Alex Jones. This has been the November 15th Marathon Edition 2011 of InfoWars Nightly News. Great job, crew.